Good to see all of you here. Now, when I smile, you're going to see I'm missing a tooth. I'm not trying to be a hillbilly, but my crown fell off right there. So, anyway, I'm still going to smile. We come together this morning to remind one another to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment, until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's faces and see their communion, the reflection of our own eyes. This house of laughter and silence, memory and hope is hallowed by our presence together.
I have two poems to review this morning with you. One is a little bit on the serious side, and the other one's more on the light side. So the first one, in line with Breathing is Life, which is the title of our sermon today. So, life's breath. Life needs breath to live, to breathe. Life needs earth for hearts to beat. But when breath, breathe, hate, anger rips bodies apart. When breath breathes hate, desires and dreams are beat. When breath breathes hate, prejudice kills life's breath. Breath needs to breathe fairly, justly, for all on earth, for filling hearts with hope and passion, just to be. Breath must breathe. Maybe I'll put my glasses on, it'll be a little bit easier. I struggled to remember to bring them, so I did.
Where'd that one come from, Nick? That quote you just...
This is by Michelle Krogan, and all I did was put in the title of our sermon into the system, and guess what I got? I got a plethora of things I could have looked at and read, so I didn't want to take up the whole service, so I just picked it up. So, the second one. As I said, the second one here is more on the light side. And for those that are nature lovers and been outside a lot, you probably heard the term forest bathing. This poem sort of fits that, and it's sort of in line with breathing. The title is Just Breathe. When the world loses its luster, it's titled Just Breathe. When the world loses its luster and the sun has lost its glow, when all you touch seems jaded and your laughter is a no-show, when your thoughts are full of darkness and your worries weigh you down, when effort just seems endless and you wear a perpetual frown, just breathe. When you breathe deeply the air in the woodland, feel the moss between your toes, smell the scent of wildflowers, let your soul release its woes. Stroke the bark of an ancient oak tree, take a picnic in the shade. Watch the birds flutter in its branches. Know your troubles are just man-made. So inhale the peace of the forest and exhale your worries and fears. Rest in the arms of nature and trust she will dry your tears. By Bonnie Diane.
Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine. Thank you. Wonderful hymn that reminds us that people all over the globe have hearts beating like ours, have dreams and hopes, under the same God that loves all people, and that we will never achieve peace by dropping bombs on other people. So, we are a small group of people But each one of us can do something to make the world more peaceful every day, just by smiling, just by being kind to someone, being kind to a stranger. That makes the world more peaceful. So we can all do that. I want you to, before we do joys and sorrows, I want you to read with me. I'll do the reading. You just read them. You just look at the words. It's hymn number 360. The title is "Here We Have Gathered." So as we make our way into our joys and sorrows, I want to remind you of why we're here together in this room. So I'm going to read these words. You can just read along without reading out loud, okay? Because I think there might be some. Here we have gathered side by side, circle of kinship. Come and step inside. May all who seek here find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Here we've gathered, called to celebrate days of our lifetime, matters small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants, and sages, sharing what we can. Life has its battles, sorrows, and regret. But in the shadows, let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain, kindness, and healing. As we give, we gain. Sing now together this our heart's own song. So let us open our minds and hearts to a place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love. Great Spirit, Creator and Sustainer of all of life, hear our prayer. From arrogance, pompousness, from thinking ourselves more important than we are, may some saving sense of humor liberate us. For allowing ourselves to ridicule the faith of others, may we be forgiven. For making war and calling it peace, special privilege and calling it justice, indifference and calling it tolerance, pollution and calling it progress, may we be cured. For telling ourselves and others that evil is inevitable while good is impossible, may we stand corrected. God of our mixed up, tragic, aspiring, doubting, and insurgent lives, help us to be as good as in our hearts we have always wanted to be. Amen.
Amen.
Join with me, please. We rejoice together and we grieve together as one. Help us to remember that every human heart holds its own joys and sorrows. Now we are so glad to have John back with us.
Okay, this song is called Box of Time. And I like to introduce it, and it's appropriate that I'm singing it during the offertory, because I introduce it with, what if you had a magic bank account? And every morning, you got $86,400 in that bank account. That'd be pretty sweet, and every day you're going to get $86,400. Well, you do have that magic bank account, only it's not money, it's time. Every morning you wake up, you have 86,400 seconds that you have to spend during the day. You can't save them because you're going to get another 86,400 seconds tomorrow and that you have to spend during the day. Everybody's got that magic bank account. Everybody's got a little box of time with a hole in the bottom where the minutes and the months and the days drain out. You can't stop. You get that box the day you're born and it's filled with years. When that last little second trickles out, everything disappears. It's a beautiful box of time, everything life's about. What are you gonna do with yours before your time runs out? It's a beautiful box of time, everything life's about. What are you gonna do with yours before your time runs out? Martin Luther built his box into a dream. Orville and Wilbur made time fly in a machine. Einstein reinvented time and all of outer space. My dad raised 3 boys and made our home a loving place. See, everybody's got a little box of time with a hole in the bottom where the minutes and the months and the days drain out. You can't stop them. You get that box the day you're born and it's filled with years. When that last little second trickles out, everything disappears. It's a beautiful box of time, everything life's about. What are you gonna do with yours before your time runs out? It's a beautiful box of time, everything life's about. What are you gonna do with yours before your time runs out? If you had piles of gold as far as the eye could see, wouldn't be worth as much as that box you got for free. Spend every minute like it was your last dime. How you be remembered is how you spent your box of time. It's a beautiful box of time, everything life's about. What are you gonna do with yours before your time runs out? It's a beautiful box of time, everything life's about. What are you gonna do with yours before your time runs out?
Wow, thank you, John.
Great.
Our reading is from the Taoist tradition in your hymnal 604. It's from Lao Tse. How many of you are familiar with Taoism? Okay. Those who would take over the earth and shape it to their will never, I notice, succeed. And when they reach out their fingers, it's gone. For a time in the world, some make a great noise, and some are held silent. some push abroad and some are tipped out. That kind of refreshing thought that what we're experiencing now is not going to last. It has a time limit to it. Anyway, we're going to talk about Taoism, and one particular component of Taoism is breathing. And we'll get to that in just in a moment, but I want to say a few things about Taoism in general and why I find it so attractive. And you know, we all know religion pretty much is a cultural thing. When you're born in America, you're going to be either Christian or Jewish or Catholic, Protestant. If you're born in China, more than likely you're going to be a Taoist. Born in Japan, you'll be a Shinto. So it's very cultural. But sometimes I wish I could have been born in China and would have been raised a Taoist, because I really like this religion. It means different things to different people, and if you get a book on Taoism, this person might say it's a religion, this person might say it's a philosophy and not a religion, but I wouldn't get all hung up on what that stuff is, you know. Taoists typically don't call themselves priests, but they call themselves philosophers, which makes it kind of a philosophy, however you understand that. Understands the love of wisdom is what the word comes from. But Taoism, understand the very first thing about Taoism is that it's a natural religion. And what I mean by that is it didn't fall down from heaven in a revelation from out beyond the clouds. It grew up out of nature. It's a natural religion. And what can be more natural than just breathing? But we'll see in a moment kind of what Nick had in his chalice lighting reading, how vital breathing is. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment. So Taoism is a natural religion. It's also holistic. It doesn't set up this duality between the body and the soul, between spirit and matter. It doesn't do that. It's holistic. Everything is holistic. Your body, your soul, your vital organs, your feelings, your thoughts, all of that is one whole. It's not this little analytical part over here functioning and this part over here functioning. It's not spirit over here separated from the material world over here. They don't think that way. We think that way. When we think spiritual, we think anything but material. Well, they don't conceive that way. They don't have that duality. It's natural religion, it's holistic religion, philosophy. It's pro-science. So once again, they have not set up this battle and this conflict and this war between religion and science that we have. So you wouldn't see them arguing over evolution versus creation over there. You wouldn't have that. Because in their minds, you know, the religion is an ever-changing, dynamic process. It's not static. When you put it in a creed, you make it static. We say the same creeds that our ancestors said hundreds of years ago. We say it. So in their minds, there's no battle between a person's spirituality and science. So again, it's really different than the way we tend to think over here in our country. Lao Tse was not the founder of Taoism. He doesn't consider himself a founder. He considered himself a transmitter of a very ancient wisdom. And there's no founder
like Moses or Jesus or Buddha. There's no founder to this philosophy. It's been around since the beginning of time. They tend to leave God out of it. They don't get all hung up on God. Where one side over here on the far right is saying God is blessing us, this is a holy war, God likes this war, God wants this war. This side over here saying, oh no, God is a God of peace. You've got the wrong God, we've got the right God. So they don't get into these arguments, theological arguments about what God might be like, what God had for breakfast this morning, and what God desires. You know, like a billboard I saw one time down in South Carolina. It said, God desires the war. Well, not the God I know desires war. So they don't get into this whole stuff about what God wants and what God was. It's like, let's just keep it down here on the earth. Let's just keep it down into our daily lives. Those seconds we're given every day. Let's just keep it down there. And I really like that about Taoism. So it's natural, it's holistic, it doesn't have this battle between religion and science, and it just kind of leaves God out. And of course, what can be more natural than breathing? Breathing, like most of what goes on, keeps us living. But for the most part, we do it below the threshold of consciousness. We're not aware of how we're breathing. And for a Taoist, breathing would be what they would call natural spirituality. You know, people say to me sometimes, well, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And I say, well, what do you mean by it? What does spiritual mean to you? You know, somebody said, well, it's the fattest cow in the middle right now, you know. It's just novel to say I'm spiritual. What do we really mean by that? And to me, Taoism reduces that to something so simple and understandable, that your breathing is your spirituality. And it involves your spirituality, the way you're breathing. Breathing is one of the most essential necessities of human life, as you heard from Nick's reading for the chalice lighting. Even more important than food and drink. Ordinary people are quite familiar with the idea that food and water are important to maintain life, that they would starve if they didn't have it. But they hardly ever turn around to think about the importance of breathing. And that air is more important than anything to life. This has to do with the fact that in order to get food, Marty, you got to work for it. You got to work for food and water. But you don't have to work for air. It's right there. So we tend to take it for granted. If you stopped eating and drinking, you might live for a few days, at most a week. If you stopped breathing, you would die within seconds. So that fact alone shows that breathing is far more important than anything we do. Now I'm going to tell you a joke, and it's a blonde joke. And sorry about all you blondes. But really, when you hear this joke, you're going to realize the joke is on us, not on the blonde. So the blonde-haired woman goes to the dentist, and she's wearing headphones through the whole procedure. And finally, the dentist said, well, what are you listening to? And she takes her headphones off, and he hears the voice saying, breathe. Now, the joke is supposed to be that she's so dumb she doesn't know to breathe. But the joke is on us because I'm thinking, well, maybe she's a Taoist and she's practicing meditation breathing. She's focusing on her breathing, which most of us don't do. So the joke is on us. My wife taught Lamaze classes for several years because she was a labor and delivery nurse. And the whole process of Lamaze is teaching these women to breathe through the pain. Breathe through the pain. And that's hard to do, you know, because when you shorten your breath through the pain, you get less oxygen to your mind and your brain, and it clouds it. So that's all about breathing through the pain. And it wasn't just short breaths, it was deep breathe through the pain. Now, I have gone through a period of my life where I was snoring a lot at night and waking my wife up, and I'd get this elbow. But what I noticed after a while is that right before, sometimes she didn't have to do that, sometimes I'd wake up, but right before that, I would dream I was underwater and I had to hold my breath. Or I was in some situation where I had to hold my breath, and I was gasping for air in this dream. And suddenly, and I'd take in that air, I'd wake up. And so I was slowly making my way towards sleep apnea, is what the doctor told me. And I needed to go to this place where you go to sleep and I don't know what it's called, where they see how you breathe when you're sleeping. Sleep lab, okay. Well, I didn't want to go to that. So I started breathing exercises. Now I'm telling you, what works for me may not work for you. But all that's gone now. I sleep without all that snoring and all that waking up. I sleep without all that. And I'm going to tell you in a moment what I began doing to help with that process of sleeping better. And the other thing that I wanted to tell you was, my wife gets, sometimes we get in bed and I hear her over there, she goes, we call that the whale coming up and blowing, you know. That sigh of relief, where the day is over, your body is relaxing, it's not tense anymore, and you have this big sigh of relief. So your body is telling you, naturally, without you having to tell it what to do, you need to take a deep breath. You need to relieve some of this stress you're feeling. So again, you know, that's a natural, that's a law of nature working. All right, I'm going to get this word right. Sarcopenia. Never heard of it in my whole life. It comes from two words, sark, which means flesh, penia, which means poverty, poverty of the flesh. It was coined in 1988 by Dr. Erwin Rosenberg, when it was discovered that as we age, our diaphragm gets weaker and weaker and weaker, and we're breathing only from the top of our lungs, and we've got all this stale air sitting down here because we're not breathing right. And that's a condition known as carpophilia, or whatever it's called. Sarcopenia is the other word for it is trapped air. It sits, it's trapped, it sits down here for days and days and days and years and years and years. Air trapping. okay, I want to say this again because I'm going to demonstrate to you what I do, and you can do it along with me or just watch me do it. But I want to stress the fact that what works for one doesn't necessarily work for another. So I want to say, well, what's right for me necessarily might not be what's right for you. And that's in every facet of life, you know. What works for me may not work for you. But anyway, a little bit before that, this breathing exercise in Taoism goes by the name of Qigong. And the way I remember that is like just saying, she's gone. Qigong. Qigong is this practice is very much a part of what flourishes in China till today. But it was at age 22 in 1800. Now I'm going to try to get these Chinese pronunciations right, but if you want to really know afterwards, I'll spell them out for you. Zhang Weikong caught tuberculosis when he was 22 years old. It killed his brother. It had already killed his brother. So he set out to cure himself and began a strict regimen, including exercise, breathing, and walking, and a special diet. It restored his health. He published his experiences using ancient texts and modern science. What had been discovered about the respiratory system in modern science. And he wrote his book, and in China today, the Qigong is still practiced. Okay, now there are three kinds of breathing. There's superficial, natural, and regulating. Superficial breathing is what we typically fall into as we age. And that is, and I've noticed this about myself, that I'll be taking these very short breaths when I'm just sitting somewhere, very short, like that. Superficial breathing. I'm just breathing, just using the top part of my lungs. We may be panting, or we may even be grasping for oxygen. And this is the thing to remember, though. We are under stress as a culture right now, as a globe, really. We're under stress. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm getting to the point where I don't even want to look at the news anymore because it's the same stuff going on. And, maybe not at a conscious level, but at an unconscious level, that's a stressor. And when you're stressed, you begin to take short breaths. Superficial breathing. Now, the first thing you want to do is try to catch your breath. And what I mean by that is try to catch the way you're breathing. And notice, I've been sitting here for a while, and suddenly I noticed I'm taking real short breaths. I'm not really breathing deeply. So next we move to what's called natural breathing. The way that we were born to breathe. The natural way of breathing, the law of nature, which is deep breathing. So what I do, I breathe through my nose, not my mouth. Now I noticed this as well, that I was breathing through my mouth more than I was my nose. Breathing through your nose is healthier than breathing through your mouth. Taoism says your mouth is for eating, your nose is for breathing. Now, sometimes you have to breathe. Like when I hike, I try to breathe through my nose, but when I get out of breath, I start breathing through my mouth. Most of us, now I notice this about myself, I'm breathing through my mouth. And I said, well, when you talk, you got to breathe through your mouth, so just shut up. So, following Taoism, this is what I do. I breathe through my nose, I inhale, push out on my stomach, let my chest relax. Exhale. My stomach contracts. My chest expands. I'm exercising my diaphragm. Your diaphragm is the muscle that helps you breathe. As we age, our diaphragm gets weaker and weaker and weaker because we're not using it. So, breathing in, breathing out. Now, you're supposed to sit erect, and I always wonder, why do you have to sit erect? Why can't you sit anywhere? Because I have a hard time sitting erect. Most of the time I sit like this. I don't sit like that. But you're supposed to sit erect because you're putting weight on your abdomen. So you're breathing, you're pushing out of your abdomen. And you're lowering that, all that down into here. That's the way we should be naturally breathing. Like that. Now, I don't always practice this because I'm not aware of it, but sometimes I forget to do it. But I realize I can do it anywhere I am. I can do it when I'm driving down here from Asheville. I can do it in the car. I can do it when I'm sitting watching television. And Taoism says if you keep practicing it, it'll become second nature. You won't know you're doing it. But if you keep practicing it, practice makes perfect. Perfection is when you're not conscious that you're breathing the way you should be breathing. You're breathing the way the laws of nature wanted you to breathe. And you're exercising your diaphragm. And then there's one more, and that's reverse breathing. Now, before I get to that, though, a Taoist takes 1 minute. A Taoist can take up to 1 minute to inhale and exhale, which is one breath. I've tried to do that. I think I can make it to about 40 seconds, but I haven't made it to a minute yet. But I'm working on it slowly. And again, you can do this anytime, anywhere. If you keep practicing it, you become second nature, and you're not aware you're breathing. But you brought your breathing back from superficial breathing to what's natural to you. Now, there's one other practice in this called regulated breathing and reverse breathing, and that is when you just you breathe opposite. Instead of when you inhale and your belly goes out, you inhale and you suck your belly in, and that way you're exercising the diaphragm. So you just do everything in reverse. And again, practice makes perfect. You keep doing it. It becomes second nature. Perhaps you know this already, but the word, does anyone know where the word breath, let me just back up a minute. The word breath is the word for spirit in Hebrew. In Hebrew, the word is hrak. Hrak. Breath, spirit. In Greek language, it's pneuma. I think I've got that right. Let me double check to make sure I'm not leading you astray. In Latin, it's spira, which is where we get the word inspiration and the word respiration. So what you have, though, really is spirit, breath, and life. And if you're a Christian, if you were raised in the Christian church, you may still be a Christian, and that's okay, and you. If you were raised in the Christian church, or even in Judaism, you know the story where God created the little clay figure, and it was Adam. And Adam is not a personal name. Adam means human. God created a little clay human, and it was just a piece of clay until what? Does anybody know the story? Breathe the breath of life into it. It became a living thing. And if you maybe if you were raised in the Christian church, you might remember the hymn, "Breathe on me, breath of God." Does anyone know that? Breathe on me, breath of God. Fill me with life anew. Breathe on me, breath of God. Fill me with life anew. That's a beautiful thought. You know, I thought, what does it mean? What is the breath of God? Well, Jesus says the Spirit is like a wind. You don't know where it's coming from, and you don't know where it's going. It's invisible, it's intangible, but it's all around you. So I figure, like, breathe on the breath of God. Well, next time it's windy, go out and just stand in the wind and let it blow you. That's the breath of God. I mean, you know, I'm talking metaphorically. So anyway, breathing, breath, spirit. You're being spiritual when you breathe. It's as simple as that. When you breathe naturally, you're breathing spiritually. Okay, I'm going to end with this. I've tried to find a hymn in our hymnal that had to do with breathing. And I finally found one in our teal hymn book. And Christine has a copy of that. We don't need it now. I'm just going to try to sing it to you. Because you heard Nick talk about breathing and hate, right? You said breathing in, how did it go? Breathing in hate, breathing out hate, wasn't it something like that? Okay, this hymn, it's a UU hymn, it's a UU meditation hymn, but it goes something like this. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Now, if you want to sing along with me, you can. But nobody has to, because I don't want to embarrass you. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. So, now you can't breathe through your nose if you're singing. So I'm going to tell those people, now, how are you going to sing that song if you're breathing through your nose and not your mouth? So what I do is I just say it to myself, not out loud. I'm saying, breathe in peace, breathe out love. Now listen, we live by our thoughts. We live by our thoughts. Our thoughts direct us. They direct us toward hate or fear. They direct us toward love or peace. We live by our thoughts, what we're thinking. What we're thinking. You know that verse in Paul, be transformed by the renewal of your mind, because that's where it all is. So when you're breathing and meditating, if you try to choose to do this, you keep saying to yourself, I breathe in peace, I breathe out love. And if you do that over time, it'll transform your life. It'll transform your life. Because you're telling your mind, you know, because oxygen, breathing, brain, mind, you're saying, I'm breathing in peace, I'm breathing out love. Thank you for listening.
This song is called Spirits in the Wind. And in the summertime, I live up in the Chippewa National Forest, which is actually a part of the Leech Lake Indian Reservation. And I can sit on my deck and I can hear the drums from the powwow. My great uncle bought that property in 1928, and I have a little cabin on it. Sandy and I live up there during the summer. And my great uncle and great aunt, my grandmother and grandfather, my mother, my dad, and me and my brothers, and all of the people who have been on that little piece of property and are no longer with us anymore. I can feel them blowing in the breeze up there. And that's to say nothing about all of the Native Americans who were on that property long before the white man came along. And so this is called Spirits in the Wind. I hear spirits in the wind, voices of all who've ever been. You see, we never really die. We just let our spirits fly. Each life's a thread in the world's great cloth. Without us all, the pattern's lost. I touch you, and you touch them. It goes on without end. It goes on. No man can deny thee. The space between us is not a sea. We're all connected, every man and woman. As we've been since it all began. And it goes on and on and on, on and on and on. For though our bodies turn to dust, our lives live on in those we've touched. You see the worth of us each is not in what we learn, but what we teach. It goes on and on and on, on and on and on. This it goes on and on, on and on and on.
Thank you.
roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Thank you all, and visitors, we have refreshments for you over there if you want to join us. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.